This is Dr. Chris's Radio Horror Show here at WCW, and tonight on the show with us, we have a gentleman I have run into on numerous occasions at various film fests and horror conventions through the New England area, who runs Morbid Vision Films, makes grotesque independent horror. You have to see it on his table to believe it. Thank you for coming on the show with us, Brian.
Thank you. Thanks for asking me to do it.
Yes, multiple times, and we just not either made it work, or I have dropped the ball, or just wait until the next time I see you at a con. Where did Morbid Vision Films begin? What year did it start?
Well, Morbid Vision Films actually didn't start until our first full-length movie, but Rich George and we started making short films back in 1990.
Whoa,
and
you're old.
Yeah, we've been doing it for a very long time.
Jeez, 1990. Wow, that's incredible. Like short films with a hand camcorder kind of thing?
Yeah, it was we had gotten the idea and we really wanted to try it, but we were just out of high school and we didn't have the money for even just the VHS camcorders were started at like $1,000 back then.
Jesus.
But luckily one of his cousins had one of the 8mm handy cams. They were just called 8mm for the smaller tapes. And he let us borrow it, and we shot our first one called Sacrificial Birth. And after we did that first one, we were both hooked. We just like, all right, we want to do this. So Rich's parents ended up giving him a loan, and he got his first camcorder. So for like the first 3 or 4 short films, Rich was the only one that actually had equipment.
You've been doing this since 1990 and doing a lot of like independent handheld stuff, whatever. When something like Paranormal Activity or the Blair Witch Project comes out and they blow up like the way they do with all their money, do you look at that and go, son of a gun? Keep in mind we do have to broadcast this, so swearing has to be kept to a minimum. But you go
No
like,
problem.
son of a effing bomb. What the hell? Does it something like that make you angry? Does it make you like, well, we got to do better because they made $100 million off of something that only cost them $15,000 to make?
I mean, it was kind of frustrating, but at the same time, it actually helped us out because when I first started doing this, especially once we started making full-length movies, the shot-on-video stuff was despised by mainstream and by actual real back then real filmmakers.
I think it still kind of is sometimes.
yeah, pretty much. But
for every VHS that comes out, there's a bad VHS movie.
But it just wasn't taken seriously. Everyone hated the way it looked. Everything was stacked up against it. It wasn't until like Blair Witch and the found footage movies like that, and especially YouTube blowing up, that's when all of a sudden everyone just kind of accepted shot on video stuff. And especially all the YouTube videos and everything, it like opened all the doors and it kind of stopped the whole resistance against shot on video stuff.
What was the how many films have you guys produced in total through the company, Morbid Visions?
Oh geez, I lost count.
Are you doing the film a year? Because you always seem to have new product every time I run into you.
Definitely not. We don't do that because it usually takes us at least 3 years to finish a full length movie. Simply because we all have full-time jobs. Sometimes we'll go 2 weeks, maybe 3 weeks without filming anything because no one's available. No one can get together at the same time. So it's very difficult.
I hear that completely. It was so great that I got everything I shot for my new short film done in a night rather.
Oh, well.
And
yep.
But now I'm struggling to try and get like the next part done, which is I have to go to Sleepy Hollow, New York and shoot a bunch of stuff.
Wow.
As much as I'm going to borrow things from people, I definitely want to shoot some of my own stuff as well because it's a short film documentary about Sleepy Hollow.
Okay.
So the documentary part's about Sleepy Hollow. It's interconnected with a short film about a girl walking home alone at night, hearing a headless horseman behind her.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah. So I'm pretty passionate about it, but life stuff happening and back to back weekends of conventions. I'm like, taking the month to deal with your comic books and then going on vacation and then coming back from vacation and doing your short film is not a bad thing. So
yeah, actually over the winter, because the winter was just so cold and a lot of a new movie, Abysmal Purgatory, takes place outside at night. I think the last time I did 3 days within 1 week, or within a week and a half, did some quick shoots, but they all took place that night in November last year.
Oh.
And I remember each night my hands were in so much pain from being so cold that I was just like, we can't do this all winter long. And also where we build the sets and everything, like it costs a lot to heat because you have to use propane and all that stuff. So it just ended up being like, you know what, we're not even going to shoot. Forget the winter. We're not going to shoot any big stuff or anything. And I actually spent the winter building sets and building big effects and everything. So it wasn't until just recently that we finally picked up and started shooting a lot again.
Did COVID hamper you in any way?
A little, yeah. I mean, we were still being careful during all that. If anyone was, everyone was honest with each other. If anyone felt like they even had a cold, then we wouldn't film and stuff. But we actually managed to get stuff done. But also, I think during that time, I was in the middle of editing Septic. So that kind of worked out good. So it was just me by myself sitting behind the computer. But I did do a couple of short films. Surprisingly, I did 2 short films during that period. But those weren't too bad. But luckily, I was editing the movie, so that actually took up most of my time, and that went through most of COVID.
What made you want to make some of the disturbing, disgusting movies that you do make to begin with? I've seen a couple, but I've seen mostly a lot of trailers and stuff. It's always hard to keep up with everyone's independent stuff, but I have watched a couple of your things back in the good old Rock and Shock days.
Just from being a fan, watching. I mean, I've always been into extreme horror, and actually all my favorite movies are just pretty much regular horror movies from the 80s, but following through, finding the next extreme thing, it just kind of helps influence what I end up doing. And since I do makeup effects, I enjoy trying to create and recreate like really graphic stuff, and it's fun to shock people. It's fun to get reactions from people and stuff. So it was just a natural thing that just kind of happened.
Do you have some films that you cite as your influence for your level of depravity?
Well, I'll start off first one of the main movies that influenced me is both for the gore and the atmosphere. I love creating very thick atmosphere in my movies, which is Lucio Fulci's City of the Living Dead. I love the look of that movie. And then, of course, back then, when I first saw it back then, the gore in that was very extreme, and there wasn't many other, rated R movies weren't doing anything even close to what he did in that movie. So that one was one of the first big influences. And again, early on, Lamberto Bava's Demons, I think that was like the first gore movie I ever saw where there was actually stuff happening. I was like, whoa, I didn't know they went this far with this type of stuff when I was a teenager watching it. And then, of course, there's the Japanese gore films, the Japanese guinea pig series that had a big influence on me. Once I saw that stuff and just saw how graphic and even disgusting how some of the stuff was, I was like, oh, I love this. Let's push it like that.
When I was walking by you the second time, when I was noticing that you also work on music, which I want to get into a little bit about, I had Mario Bava's film with me, Planet of the Vampires.
Oh, yeah.
He had it on the table of Blu-rays.
I finally saw that for the first time, maybe like 5 years ago or something. And that was another one. The atmosphere, I was just blown away. I'm like, this movie looks so cool. I just had this thing for very thick atmosphere. I love the way that stuff looks. When I see a nicely lit scene with fog bellowing everywhere, I'm just in love with that type of stuff.
What state do you live in?
I'm in Massachusetts.
You're in Massachusetts. Okay. Back in October, did you go to the Somerville Theater when they had the composer from Goblin there doing the music for Demons?
Yes, I did go to that, and that was incredible. That was so good.
I had just had a breakup, and my heart was shattered and in pieces, and I had just had a bad, it was like a month prior, and I tried going out with somebody, and she was a psychopath, and it killed my vacation that whole week, because I was on vacation. I wanted to go, but I just did not have anything in me to want to do anything like that, and I really wanted to go see that so badly.
Man, I came close to not going because I actually got the flu really bad 2 weeks before it, or a week and a half before it.
Oh wow, regular flu or COVID flu?
It was a regular flu, but it was a bad one. I had mentioned it to my friend Joe Olson that I do the movies with as well, but then we hadn't talked for a little bit.
Glass by Joe? Glass by Joe? Yeah. Joe Glass by Joe came on the show back in Rock and Shock days too.
Awesome.
Yeah, good guy. I always love seeing him too.
Yeah, Well, he talked me into it. He's like, "No, man, let's go." I was like, "You sure? Do you want to go?" And so he talked me into going. I kept thanking him afterwards. We're driving. He ended up driving. We're driving home on the highway. I'm like, "Thank you for talking me into going to this." It was one of the best shows I've ever seen. It was just so good.
Did he do meet and greets and signings or anything like that? Because that was the one thing I couldn't figure out. Because I really wanted to bring like a copy of like Dawn of the Dead and have him sign it. Because Goblin did the music for Dawn of the Dead.
I don't know if he was signing, but I did get to meet him. If you walk down to the front of the stage, he just walked right up to the stage. Most people were leaving, and Joe knew it. I guess somehow Joe knew. Joe's like, sidewalk. He's like, "Come on, let's go to the stage." I'm like, "Oh, okay." So yeah, he shook our hands. Oh, we got photos with him too. That was cool.
Well, next event like that I think you might be into, I'll give you a call to find out if you're going or not. Because also I didn't want to go. Yeah. I also didn't want to go alone because again, it just the breakup really just it killed my social drive for a little bit. You know what I mean?
Oh, yeah.
So
I don't know. Going alone, I don't know if I would have found that place. It was in a really strange spot, and it was like the Cambridge type area.
Oh, you've never been to Somerville before?
No, I'd never been there. Joe
my God! Been there, yeah. Joe. Did I go with Joe? Theater, by the way, in Somerville does the Boston Science Fiction Film Fest every single year, and this past year they had Robert. What's his name from K&B Effects Studio?
Kurtzman.
Kurtzman, yeah, Kurtzman. Yep. A lot of people, when I said Kurtzman, they think Kirkman from The Walking Dead. I'm like, no, not the comic book creator. Kurtzman, the special effects makeup artist, who's worked on a lot of disgusting things. So I was a volunteer there, and he signed my copy of John Carpenter's Vampires, and I got a free photo of one of the Deadites from the Army of Darkness.
Oh, nice.
Yeah.
That's cool.
Yeah. His wife, by the way, or his partner, girlfriend, I don't know who she was exactly. She's also involved in a lot of special effects stuff, too.
That's cool.
Yeah. When you are dealing with your special effects budget, how much is your budget of your film? And, where do you get your budget from? How do you... The biggest question people have in independent filmmaking is, where do I get the money?
See, I can't really answer how much of the budget there is because, especially on Abysmal Purgatory right now, this is probably the most effects I've ever attempted to do in one movie.
Uh-huh.
But I've already been working on the movie for 2.5 years.
Oh, wow. So I'm in a big rush to get my Sleepy Hollow thing done, and you're like, 2.5 years later, what are you rushing, boy? What do you get to rush? You gotta go shoot some film footage of a town and then slap a narration over it? Ooh, I got 3 years making a film. You make me feel terrible about my patience with myself. But I have a documentary.
Sometimes
I have a documentary I've been working on for 4 years, only because it's episodic. So.
Oh yeah, yep. Certain things just take a very long time.
It's
because
true.
We pack so many effects and we try to do so many large set pieces and everything. It does take a lot of time. The one I remember freshly always in my mind is the movie Blood Pigs. When we did the finale for that, the finale took a month and a half alone just to film because again, that was only on weekend nights that we were filming it. So the advantage I guess we have is since I don't have an actual budget, no one's financing the movie, I don't have to answer to anybody. So over the 3-year period it takes us to film something, that's whenever I have extra money, it's just going towards that. So it basically just comes out of my paycheck for my full-time job.
What do you do? What is your full-time job?
I work in an auto body shop.
Oh, fantastic.
I prep cars and trucks for paint.
Oh, so you really know detail very well, and that's helpful with the kind of films you make.
That's how I actually got the job because I had no training, but the first place I worked at, I had 2 family members there and they really needed someone. They're like, well, they knew I had attention to detail and stuff from my effects work. So my effects work actually got me in there, which is weird.
Do you also work with Billy Coyne or Diana Pimentel?
No, I haven't. No.
No, really? Wow. But you know Billy from Rock and Shock and horror conventions.
Yeah. I know Billy. I don't know. What you say, Diane?
Diane Pimentel.
Yeah, I don't think I've met her.
Okay.
Or if I have met her and talked to her, it was just kind of someone else was there and we just kind of talked about it. Yeah, I don't think I've met her.
As insanely detailed special effects makeup work as much as she is incredibly beautiful. If you see her Instagram photos.
I think Joe showed me.
Drop dead gorgeous.
Showed me her work.
Insanely detailed, incredible work, but also, again, horror, just she's incredibly beautiful. Very
Okay,
sweet.
someone has sent me her. Someone sent me her work and showed me. So yeah, I do remember that, but no, I have never actually met her.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I worked on her for a short film that Sarah Michelle. I don't know if you ever worked with her or met her.
I met
Before
her. She was supposed to be in one of my movies, but it just kind of fell apart.
yeah, she moved away in like 2016 to Normandy for like literally a happily ever after. And we worked together, and she introduced me to Diane for my one of 3 48-hour film projects I ever worked on that I was the head of, and it was the most. It wasn't successful. We didn't win a reward, but
Yeah,
it was the most fun I've ever had on a film in my entire life for an entire
that's
day
good.
shooting this thing. I didn't have to do anything because I was the head of it all. Everything I did was like ahead of time, putting it together and getting everyone together. And then we
Oh
all
yeah,
went out to Sarah's place, her grandparents' house actually out in Rhode Island, and got the whole thing shot in a day and got it back in time for the festival. You know what I mean? We
that's
were
cool.
done and wrapped by like 7 o'clock, and then the editor was done by like 11 or 12 the following day. So.
Oh wow.
Yeah, no, it was very like we made sure everyone had a job and the job got done so we can get stuff done on time. It was perfect.
Yep.
Josh Tate, if you know who that is, he did the music for it.
Okay.
Have you what's some of the film fests you got coming up that you're gonna be at? I don't know if you were at Dead of Winter Horror Fest, which was a couple tables down from you this past weekend.
No, I didn't make it to that one, but I was talking to James over the weekend, so we're probably going to do the next one.
Okay.
The next one that I'm going to do.
And I mentioned Skip Shea that you were coming on the show, and he was like, "That's awesome." So you must know
Cool.
Skip Shea as well.
Nice. And also, we're already booked for. We already have our table reserved for October Monster Expo.
Oh, that's good. Yeah, they got that one. Are you going to New Hampshire?
No, unfortunately, when it comes to traveling, like whenever a hotel comes involved, we haven't been doing conventions like that because as soon as we have to get a hotel room, that kills any profit that we could make.
No, I understand that.
So it's kind of tough. You know, we have to look at traveling sometimes. Some of them, they'll be like, okay, you know what, it's a new location for exposure and a whole new crowd will do it. The only ones I've ever had a chance to actually travel to are the one. I think there was 3 of them. I was lucky enough to actually be invited as a guest, and which is awesome because they give you a hotel room. So then it's like, okay, cool. Well, yeah, that I can do.
I'm going to Hawaii coming up in May. I had one friend ask if I can bring his camera with me, and I'm like, honestly, dude, I'm trying to like keep everything in one carry-on because I don't want to check anything. So I'm like, I'm traveling light for the week, so it's literally like, you know, rolling up the socks, rolling up the underwear, things like that. I was told don't bring any toiletries. We'll just, get them there because we're going to be staying at like a couple different hotels that I don't have to pay for, thank God. So things like that I'm not going to have to worry about. And someone's like, well, like, try to shoot some, like, B-roll footage for me, because I have a tropical setting idea, and I'm just like, no, I got what you're saying, because I have the thought in my head, too, just like, my once-in-a-lifetime opportunity, or I might come again to Hawaii, I want to shoot some stuff to use for, like, like a tropical horror movie of some kind, and just be like, oh, I have all this footage I shot in Hawaii, just use it for, like, cutaway scenes and background and things like that.
Use your cell phone.
Yeah, that's what I'm probably going to do. I haven't flown in like 20 years, so I don't know what all the TSA crap is I have to deal with. So.
Oh yeah, I haven't been anywhere in same thing like 20 years.
My friend's just like, take off your shoes, make sure you just empty everything into the bucket or whatever. Take off your belt buckle if it's got metal on it too. Just take it all off.
Yep.
I'm like, seriously? He's like, well, I took off my pants, so thankfully I was wearing my swim trunks underneath, so nobody could say anything. Talk a little bit about your music, because that was new to me. I didn't realize you had also been a music maestro.
Music is probably my first passion. Music's even more important to me than horror movies and stuff. I've played guitar since I was in the 9th grade. It's such a huge part of my life that I finally that CD that I had on my table that, like I said, it was like 20 years in the making, because even the first song on the CD, I think I wrote like 20 years ago. So it's just been practicing it all the time, trying to figure out if I was ever going to try to get a full band together. That never worked out. So then at some point, I think it was like 15 years ago. Actually, no, more like 20 years ago now that I think of it. I bought 2 used drum sets, put them together, and I taught myself how to play drums because I was sick. I couldn't find a drummer who could play fast enough, and I was sick of using a drum machine. So I was like, I'm just going to learn how to play drums. So it was just a matter of, I know at some point I have to do this. I have all these songs. I I have to do it all myself. I'll just have to figure out how to do it myself and finally get a CD. So now I finally have a full CD together. So it took forever, but
Talk about
it's just one of those things I had to get done.
Talk about some of the other band members and the songs that are on the CD.
It's just me.
Oh, it's just you. Wow.
Yep. Basically, because just I only had a couple of friends who actually, right now, none of my friends really play. I have one friend who plays bass, but yeah, no one else really plays any instruments or anything. So I wouldn't even be able to get a full band together through friends. Meeting new people, sometimes it just, I mean, if it doesn't click, then it's not going to work. So I just said the hell with it. And I was like, I'll do everything myself. I know exactly what I want to do. The hardest part was just learning drums. And that took me like a good 15 years until I was able to reach the speed and the endurance that I could finally do now. And I was finally happy with. But, I just said, well, I'm just going to have to do it myself.
How many songs are on the CD?
There's 7 songs. So 7 full-length songs. They all, I think the shortest one, I think there's actually one that's only like 3 minutes, maybe even a little less. But all the other songs, they're at least 4 minutes. I think the last song is like 7.5 minutes long.
Are you do you edit your own music as well as do you also edit your own films, or do you leave that to someone else?
Yeah, and I actually use the same program, which I was talking to a guy. Someone was messaging me not too long ago, and he was a sound engineer, and he was asking. I think he was asking about the music. Something came up. I guess he saw me posting something about Psyoth or whatever. And he was asking how I did it. You know, I'm like, I don't have budget for going to a studio, and it's just me, so it would be me footing the whole bill. I said, I have a guitar program I have hooked up to my computer. I record guitars through that, and everything else, the drums, I'm miking it up. I'm using my boom mic from my camera, and everything else is just done with a boom mic and hooked up into my video camera that I use to film with, and then I just upload. I put all that into the computer and I use my editing system. And he's like, wait, what? How are you doing that? And he's just like, my mind's blown. I don't understand how you're doing this. I'm like, I'm just using the same program, like the same audio program that I use for the audio in my movies. And I didn't think it was that big of a deal. I thought what I was doing was actually like kind of cheap, and I'm obviously not doing it the right way. But he was like, oh my God, I've never heard of anyone doing this before. I'm like, really? Okay.
I can edit audio pretty well. There's always a technique here and there I can learn to do a little better and cut it and use a shortcut compared to how I'm doing it. But when it comes to video, I'm still like a newbie. I'm still really learning how to like cut a frame out and then put the two pieces together. You know what I mean?
Oh yeah. Yep.
So with my like the Bernie Wrightson thing I told you about at the table coming up,
Yep.
we just got done an interview, and I was just like, this footage, whatever, his background, it's a lot of it's audio narration. We're gonna use a lot of still pictures and moving pictures or whatever, kind of splice everything together. It might be a little easier for an editor if we're not using a lot of like actual video footage. And the only video footage we might be using is like, okay, so this is when they talk about Creepshow, grab a screenshot, grab a clip from Creepshow. Especially Bernie's artwork. Grab. I want this from not Sandman, Swamp Thing, because Bernie Wrightson created Swamp Thing, so we're going to have some Swamp Thing footage in there. From the various versions of Swamp Thing that have happened over the years, as Swamp Thing has been used multiple times. Funny enough, nearly as often as Batman and Superman. Like the editor just has to do that. You know what I mean? And sometimes I guess it could be easier for the editor to do that than clipping together a bunch of stuff. And I just need to make sure no picture needs to stay still. Every picture has to be moving on the camera or whatever, up and down. Is that really easy? And usually I've been told it's really easy. So maybe I'll give you a ring up or whatever to see what you can do if you can help me with my my Bernie Wrightson project or my my Sleepy Hollow project when it gets done.
I'll be honest with you, when I've done like some of the behind the scenes making of, like sometimes I'll just do behind the scenes, you just put raw footage on there. But then some people have asked me for recent releases to do like a brand new making of, or a couple of things I've done on YouTube where it's more done like documentary style. Documentary editing is so much more difficult than movie editing.
Oh, no.
Because with movie editing, the visual story you want to tell. When it comes to a documentary, you're educating, but you have to make it entertaining. And it's very easy to accidentally make it boring.
Right. What someone told me I need to do is go through all of the audio and figure out exactly what it is I need first, edit the audio for the editor, and then just tell them like, you know, if you don't really have a narration to a story and they're just talking about a person, then just kind of let them put it together, you know, especially if it's like somebody who's dead, you know, and then like save the death parts till the very end, and then just have this be like, okay, all this audio, use it. I don't care about the time codes. Just match the picture to the audio, what they're saying. You know what I mean? Like, if they're not talking about something in particular, just throw random pictures up there. I'm very easy on it. If they, you know what I mean? They mention Swamp Thing, show some Swamp Thing animation or clips from the movie. Creep Show, same thing, or whatever. Or Silver Bullet. That's another one. The Stand. Silver Bullet and The Stand, Bernie Wrightson also did artwork for Stephen King. So, but I digress. No, I get what you're saying. That's fine.
No, that makes sense, because when I was for a year or so, I did a bunch of YouTube videos, and I'd just be talking. I'd be talking about whatever I was doing, like even just top 5 of a certain genre or something. And then when I'm putting it in the computer and I'm editing and I'm watching it, I'm like, oh, you don't realize how much I talked. So I'm like, nope. All right, take that whole minute out. We don't need that. We don't need that. So yeah, I had to edit all the audio. I'm just looking at my face, you know, talking, no big deal. But there was all these audio parts that I'm like, take that out. We don't need that. That's boring. That's boring. Take that, put that with that. So I had to edit the whole audio portion first.
Gotcha.
And also being a YouTube video, YouTube doesn't matter as much. It can be jump cuts, so I didn't care about that.
Right.
But again, that makes it more difficult for a documentary, because it also has to be visually pleasing, whereas a YouTube video can be jump cuts. It doesn't matter.
Gotcha.
But yeah, editing the audio for a documentary definitely makes sense. You do that first and then match the pictures with it.
Yeah, that's what I'm doing right now. As soon as I'm done with everything, I'm going to be going through there and being like, okay, so what do I need? What do I need? Okay, I want this. I want that. But
yeah.
Brian, I really appreciate you coming on finally after all these many years. Why don't you give away where people can find your films?
We're mostly selling on eBay now, so under Morbid Vision Films. And we have 4 pro DVDs on there. But also you can contact us at morbidvisionfilms@yahoo.com. And we have a lot of DVDRs of our older movies that we still make sure they're still out there. But we can't list them on eBay because they're DVDRs, and they say those are bootlegs, even though we own them, and they take them down. So contact us directly. We can hook people up.
Awesome, Brian. Thank you so much for coming on the show.
Thank you for asking.